Speaker. I'm happy today to rise and speak on this bill, Bill C-26, and I will be voting in favour of it. I am very proud to represent the riding of North Island Powell River, which is full of hardworking people from many sectors, largely from a history of resource sectors, and it's in a wonderful place of transition right now. But I do know this, that all the hardworking people in my riding work hard towards a good retirement, and that's a priority for all of them. You know, Mr. Speaker, in my riding, I take a lot of time to speak with seniors. Earlier this year, I was really proud to travel around Campbell River and go to several different senior centres the day before Canada Day. And I have to say that I really appreciate Carol Chapman and the Canada Day Planning Committee, who work so hard to allow dignitaries to go into these homes annually, be with the people, the seniors, the day before, and really get an opportunity to speak and chat with them. And it was heartbreaking in some cases to talk to members, senior constituents of mine, who have multiple challenges as they age, concerns around how they're going to make ends meet, how they're going to afford their medication. So that is a reality in this country and in my riding. This bill will take 49 years to reach full implementation. Mr. Speaker, my son just turned 16 in June, and he will be experiencing the full benefit of that. But the reality is many seniors are living in poverty, and it's growing in my riding. On a weekly basis, constituents are contacting my office to share real challenges. The truth is, Bill C-26 will not address these issues. My office hears about seniors who are making choices between purchasing medication, buying food, paying for their heat, or figuring out how they're going to be paying for transportation. This is not a discussion that I think seniors should be having in a country like Canada. In the numerous town halls I've held on seniors' issues in the riding, seniors say that what they really want to see is a national farmer care program. These seniors were very clear that medication that is affordable would be a real change, that would make a real difference for them. There was also a clear demand that we need a national senior strategy. And I can see why, Mr. Speaker. Nationally, we know what is happening. There is a Broadbent study, an analysis on the economic circumstances of Canadian seniors, and it tells us a startling story. The study found that 47% of Canadians aged 55 to 64 are without an employer pension plan. It also found that roughly half of Canadians aged 45 or 55 to 64 are without a workplace pension and have less than $3,000 saved for retirement. The seniors' poverty rate has increased from a low point of 30.9% in 1995 to 11.1%, or 1 in 9 in 2013. You know, Mr. Speaker, one of the particular privileges of a Member of Parliament is that we get to speak and be in our communities. And I was heartbroken. I had one person who worked with the homeless population for over 30 years make time to come see me. And what he told me was in the last 3 years he had seen a startling change. The change was, for the first time, seniors were walking through the door, telling him stories of being at risk of homelessness. Seniors, people in their 70s that were couch surfing. How can that be in Canada? How can it be that seniors are now seeing homelessness as one of the options that they have to face at a time when we should be taking care of them? In my riding of North Island Powell River, Mr. Speaker, we are seeing these issues increase. For example, in Campbell River, where the projections to the year 2030 see a population increase of overall of about 16.3%. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, the population of people 75 years and older is expected to increase by 128%. In the Comox Valley, where seniors 80 years and older are currently at 4.7% of the total population, there will be an increase to 7.4% in 2031. And most startling, Mr. Speaker, in the regional district of Mount Waddington, the population is expected to decrease by 9.8% by 2030, while the population of seniors 75 years and older is expected to grow by 263%. And in Powell River, that's a community across Canada that is 9th out of 10 locations for having the highest population of seniors 65 and older, at 23% of the population. Mr. Speaker, the issues of seniors in my riding are real and they will be growing, and this bill is a start for my child, but it is not a solution for the people that I serve. Mr. Speaker, we know that only 11.5% of CPP recipients receive the maximum benefit, and for women, it is only 4.5%. These numbers are telling us an important story, Mr. Speaker, on why we need to see the CPP increase. As Susan Ing, former president of CARP, said, so why is a CPP increase needed again? Canadians are not saving enough for retirement and government can help. Those braying too bad for them need to realize that every pension dollar reduces the need for the taxpayer-funded payments of old age security, guaranteed income supplements, and even welfare. Mr. Speaker, the other reality is that young workers are facing a more precarious work environment than we have ever seen before. Many people are facing that reality of a patchwork approach to employment. Seasonal, part-time, temporary, it's precarious work, and it is put together by people to try and support themselves and, in many cases, their family. Mr. Speaker, the reality is only 4 out of 10 people have a workplace pension plan. I have had young families speak to me about the debate that they're having to make the decision of if they're going to save for their children's education or save for their retirement. I believe that's shameful in this country. The majority save for their children's education, Mr. Speaker. This should not be a debate that they're having. Sadly, I also have constituents who have to go to the food bank weekly just to feed their family. They cannot afford food and have challenges paying for their housing and their everyday costs. How will they put away for retirement? A tax-free savings account won't make their life easier. The other reality is I spent many years in the nonprofit sector, Mr. Speaker. The people who work in that sector are tremendously passionate about the people and the organizations and the services that they provide, but very few of them have workplace pensions. And when you look at the return on investment that we get from those nonprofits, it seems just the right thing to make sure that they get a return on investment for their retirement. Mr. Speaker, poverty is also not very good for business. In a world where we live today with so many financial challenges means that there will be future challenges for many. Small businesses, people who have lower incomes spend money locally. This bill will mean less abject poverty in the future, which will result in more local spending. Mr. Speaker, Bill C-26 is a start, but I still have many concerns. I want to know how this government is going to address the eroding of workplace pensions in Canada. How will the current government address the increasing levels of poverty among seniors while we wait for these enhancements to take place? This bill does not address the 30% of single women seniors who are currently living in poverty. How do we lift them out of poverty now? Seniors deserve better, Mr. Speaker. This is a step in the right direction, but it can be better. The people of Canada and the people of my riding deserve it. Thank you.
Bravo.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Laurentides-Labelle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the member's speech and her support on this bill. I agree that there is always more that can be done, and I would like to give her this opportunity to tell us, in a perfect world, what would the perfect policy look like for seniors? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for North Island, Powell River.
I thank the member for his important question, and I will just outline that it was already said in my speech. What we need to do is put forward a policy that is a national framework around seniors. This is a growing population in our country. We need to make a plan. One of the realities is we're not working with all of our partners provincially, territorial, and municipally. We need to get together and figure out how we're going to create those solutions. And I have to say, Mr. Speaker, often these issues arise most powerfully in municipalities and regional districts, in towns and villages across our country. And I am very impressed what they do every day to make a difference. So I thank those communities for stepping up, but we need a national strategy where all of those partners are working together to make a difference for people who are suffering today.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires? L'honorable.
The honourable member for Longueuil-Saint-Hubert. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I'd like to congratulate my colleague on her speech. It's very centered on her community, and we can see that they're very lucky to have a member of parliament who is so aware of their problems. And indeed, this enhancement of the CPP, it's really interesting to hear that her son will be able to fully benefit from that. But in my riding of Saint-Hubert, the waiting list for affordable housing is around 2,000. The waiting lists are endless. And does my colleague really have the hope that this government will work on this issue that seems to be the biggest part of anyone's budget, young people in particular?
Well, thank you so much to my colleague for that very important question. And you know, I'm always accused of being an optimist, and I think that sometimes that's a positive life choice. I'm hopeful. I'm guardedly hopeful. But this is a real reality in our communities that we serve. We know across this country, housing is a bigger and bigger challenge. Affordable housing is devastating. And I've talked in this particular context to many seniors who are having to make terrible choices. You know, for example, I talked with somebody recently who her husband is in care, and 90% of his pension is going to pay for him to be in care. And so her housing, her life is totally at risk because she's only getting 10% at a time when women stayed home for a longer period. And so we really need to be having that national strategy so we can look at what issues are really facing seniors, and we can provide a really rounded approach on how we move forward in the future.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Winnipeg North.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to allude to a question I'd asked to a previous member of hers, and that is in regards to, today we're talking about the CPP and the importance, and we're investing into the future. She made reference to a young person and how the benefit will be there. But she also put a great deal of emphasis on poverty and seniors in poverty. And I'm wondering if she would at the very least acknowledge in this last budget, where we saw a substantial increase for the guaranteed income supplement, to the degree in which well over 10,000 seniors in poverty will actually be lifted out of poverty. And would she not acknowledge that at the very least, when we deal with the senior issues, it's much more complex than just the one issue of the CPP. The CPP, what we're debating today, is one step forward, but we still need to improve where we can.
Honourable member for North Island, Powell River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member for the question. And just want to clarify, the young person I was speaking of was actually my son. His name is Kai. He just turned 16 in June, and he's 6'3". So just to be clear, that's who we're talking about. You know, I thank you. You know, I'm always appreciative of people listening and trying to help people out of poverty. But there's some real parts that are left out. So when you look at what's happening in my community, largely, you know, resource-based economy, a lot of seniors, a lot of people retiring in the beautiful location, what we really need to see is a pharmacare strategy. So, you know, I'm glad there's some of those steps being made, but they're not solutions that are long-reaching. If you look at medication and what families are struggling with every day, we really need to have a solution that's based on making medication more affordable.